And at 10, Nightmare Baby. Originating in the fan game Baby's Nightmare Circus, I believe, or just being the basis for it, Nightmare Baby is pretty damn spooky. Being the likely originator for the stomach mouth present on the other Nightmare animatronics already made the thought of her as a nightmare terrifying, but throw in the classic Nightmare rundown aesthetic again despite being a plastic casing, like with Nightmare Funtime Freddy, and the countless sharp teeth in the animatronic mouth, this thing will make you see stars. Oh, and adding the nightmare look to animatronics that can already move their face was bad enough. But thinking about it or actually seeing their face move and like reveal a nightmare endoskeleton is even worse. And at 9, Nightmare Funtime Freddy. Well, what did you expect? Of course, a nightmare version of Funtime Freddy is going to be on this list. It's basically like a requirement for any animatronic list, because Funtime Freddy is probably one of the creepiest and weirdest versions of them all. Nightmare Funtime Freddy is what you'd guess, in essence a recolored Nightmare Fredbear, actually. Instead of Nightmare Freddy, which I guess is understandable, but the real gem comes from when they make the Nightmare version look like the classic, like plastic toy look that the original Funtimes have. Because I don't know why, but for some reason the Nightmare aesthetic with like the toy look of the Funtimes just makes it absolutely horrifying from both fronts. At this point, I never want toys again, but I'm going to buy various pop figures. I also am going to have nightmares about this version eating other Nightmare animatronics. Like, I think he was doing it to save me, like a Glam Rock Freddy situation, but like still, okay, he could snatch me up without a fight. He could rip me in two. Nightmare Funtime Freddy, that's not where your teeth go. And at 8, Nightmare Toy Chica. Nightmare Toy Chica is honestly what you'd expect from a nightmare version of your favorite chicken robot. Not robot chicken, chicken robot. All the glory of Toy Chica with the horror of a nightmare, the countless sharp teeth, the stomach mouth, torn body even though they're a toy in plastic so it doesn't really make any sense, it should just be cracked. Exposed endoskeleton, you name it, she's got it. She's got it going on. And those without a beak are even worse than you'd expect. You'd expect that without the beak there would be less teeth, but no. In fact, they have the same amount of teeth, and they're just ready to bite your head off. If anyone was going to have caused the bite of 87, it would be Nightmare Toy Chica, and not just because of the Ultimate Custom Night line, okay? That's a can of worms that we've already covered in multiple videos. And at 7, Nightmare Glam Rock Bonnie. Yet another set of animatronics without any Bonnie representation. The Security Breach Glam Rock animatronics, from what we've seen in the trailers so far, don't have a Glam Rock Bonnie. He really only appears as the mascot of bowling. However, fans here yet again made Glam Rock versions of Bonnie, but those weren't really scary. So in classic FNAF fashion, if you want something to be scarier, you just throw Nightmare in front of it, and then boom, you have an unholy abomination that will eat your soul and devour your balls. Nevertheless, Nightmare Glam Rock Bonnie looks exactly how you'd expect a Nightmare version of Glam Rock Bonnie to look, with shoulder pads. That's the scariest part. And at 6, Nightmare Toy Bonnie. I thought that the Nightmare versions couldn't get any worse, yet here we are. I remember someone commenting on the fan versions of Chica list saying that it was more like a fan versions of Toy Chica list, but the toy animatronics are just another version of the original, so it wasn't a different list. This is a monstrosity that needs to be banished to the depths of hell and then sent by Satan from hell to like the empty because he doesn't want to deal with it. I would understand why. Like, looking this thing up, I didn't expect to be as frightened as I was, but holy ever-loving crap, this shocked me. The toy aesthetic, again, just seems to make these versions worse. I don't know what it is. It's just like the toy animatronics as nightmares just make the absolute scariest versions of the characters. I don't get it. Like, if you have any theories as to why this is a thing, like maybe like a psychological or something, I don't know, leave it in the comments. Halfway through into number 5, Nightmare Entered. The beauty of nightmare versions of animatronics is that they can really be anything. There are plenty of directions to go because everyone will consider different things to be nightmare fuel. Some are very clearly in the style of other nightmare animatronics, you know, lots of sharp teeth, stomach mouths. Some are spider-like versions that are hunched over and wider than they are long. Some have more limbs or are combined with other animatronics like Baby or Funtime Foxy to create a unique nightmare appearance. You can lean more into the clown aesthetic, or you go a million miles north and do something that nobody else has done, but that's just nightmares. That's what makes this kind of thing fun. And in doing so, you make something that not even Scott himself would have thought of. And isn't that kind of beautiful? Even if all these versions are making my currently blue pants brown, it's kind of causing me to black out a little bit. And at 4, Twisted Nightmare. The Twisted animatronics are probably the most horrific animatronics ever described. These buggers are disgusting and horrific and are only approachable when using illusion discs to make themselves look presentable. I get that. Combine that with Nightmare, who is the scariest nightmare animatronic from the games, and oh my lord, you have one hell beast. Twisted Nightmare is everything you want to avoid when creating something for kids. I can hardly put it into words, honestly. Like, I'm glad that there's pictures that can be shown, because I honestly don't know how to go about describing this. If Hell's Gates had opened and released the entirety of FNAF lore into real life, and then the Joy of Creation animatronics emerged, including not just the ones from the game, but literally every other animatronic from the series in an ignited form, and then they all merged and became Twisted, that's half of how this demonic monstrosity would have been created. It's wrong. I feel deceived. I feel sharp objects being stabbed into my flesh. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare Springtrap. Nightmare Springtrap is certainly a sight. Not for sore eyes though, no. If anything, this is going to make your eyes sore. However, every iteration of Nightmare Springtrap basically does the same thing. He gets the classic nightmare teeth, but the rest of him remains largely the same. Maybe he gets a slight change to his ears or his skull shape, but other than that, Nightmare Springtrap is mostly just regular Springtrap. The majority of people believe that Springtrap is already scary, and he already has most of the appearance of a Nightmare animatronic, being one of the most destroyed characters in the games, and especially in FNAF 3. One version I saw had like eyes covering all of him, but for the most part he looked either Springtrap or just like a larger fetch, but still terrifying. Penultimately, in at number 2, Nightmare Glamrocks. Nightmare animatronics are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic. That's why there's so many fan-made versions, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, like I said before, you can really head anywhere. Same with scrap versions, especially with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, but there's a stark contrast between these two different versions. They seem to just have the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on, and it's not even just because they look like plastic toy animatronics. Like, it's like this is like the step up from the nightmare toys. Like, I don't know what it is about these characters specifically. It makes me think some kind of way. Maybe it's because that Glamrock Chica is my bae, and now she's just horrifying even more, but again, that's kind of a kink. Like, I don't get it. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, and their Nightmare Glamrock version is scarier than their normal Nightmare version. I know that Bonnie got his own number, I wanted to reiterate, okay? Stay away from these if you can, and the reason these are higher is because it's a whole group of them. And finally, in at number 1, Hellmare. This was another animatronic that was recommended to me, this time in the comments of part 1 of alternate fan versions of Fredbear, and I can see why. The Hellmare version of Nightmare Fredbear is probably the absolute single most horrific FNAF-oriented thing I have ever seen. Like, I'm going to have to make a whole list about the Hellmare animatronics or something, because this is the absolute craziest shit that I have ever seen. How did I not know about these before? Hellmare Fredbear can only be described as a true nightmarish abomination from hell, and so the name is accurate. This thing had not one, not 2, but 3 separate mouths, 2 heads. But not only does it have 2 heads, those heads are reversed from one another. So the head on top and the one on the bottom, they spin 180 degrees, and you either get Nightmare or you get Nightmare Fredbear. Yeah, this dude is both animatronics combined. And I didn't even see that at first. Once I noticed it, I'll admit, I might have peed my pants a little bit, okay? Come on, 2 heads, 2 sets of 4-fingered hands, and half of these parts being Nightmare, and half of them being Nightmare Fredbear. Look, I'm not usually actually scared when it comes to these things. I play it up for the camera and for entertainment, and that's why I'm so, like, light and fluffy on camera. Like, yes, they're scary, but I'm not actually worrying about them. I'm not playing this up. This is probably going to actually give me nightmares. Like, what kind of hell-raising sadistic came up with this idea? And it's Circus Baby. Hello and welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're counting down the top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's FNAF. In Sister Location, we thought we finally had the first nice animatronic, okay? It was like basically it was a prototype of Glamrock Freddy, or at least we thought so. At first, Baby gives us tips on how to survive. She helps us get through Ballor's gallery. She seems like she actually wants us to stay alive. And then what do we get for trusting her? Scooped and stuffed, just like a Thanksgiving turkey. This is probably one of the most brutal things to happen to a character in the entirety of the series, and that's built on the fact that we trusted Baby, okay? If we didn't trust her, then it happened, then we would just be stupid, but we trusted her this time. She makes us feel safe. She gave us confidence that we would survive. She prevented us from getting killed, only to use our body as a skin suit and then get kicked out of Ennard not even a game later. This is why I don't trust Glamrock Freddy. Baby is legit one of the reasons I have trust issues now, and that's saying something. Or maybe that's the personality disorder that I have not yet figured out. And at 9, Jacko Chica. Jacko Chica is an antagonist that's exclusive to the Halloween update for Five Nights at Freddy's 4. Well, I guess not an update, but it's a DLC of sense things. She replaces Nightmare Chica in this version, and she also returns in Ultimate Custom Night and Help Wanted. Jacko Chica is a Halloween themed version of Nightmare Chica, which I feel like you could kind of get given that it's the Halloween update. She's distorted, nightmarish, an even worse version of Nightmare Chica with several sharp teeth, wires sticking out from torn parts of her body, and then, unlike her original counterpart, she lacks eyes. And actually like the head of an endoskeleton. Instead, having just a bright orange light emitting from her eye sockets and torsos and just every single opening, it has orange light coming out from it. Do you know how terrifying that is? It is the depths of hell walking towards you carrying a freaking pumpkin cupcake. She also carries a jack-o'-lantern instead of a cupcake, but I just said that. When the office in Ultimate Custom Night heats up to 90 degrees, Jacko Chica is going to appear in both halls at the same time. And then once she's fully materialized, she's going to kill you. The only way that you can stop her is by closing the left and right doors at the same time to make her vanish. Or I guess having them both closed at the same time. You can't really close both at once. But this won't work if the office reaches 100 degrees or more. So yeah, you gotta, if you can't handle the heat, get out of the kitchen. That's why I don't play FNAF anymore. In a Nightmare. Nightmare is the main antagonist of FNAF 4, who returns in Ultimate Custom Night. Nightmare is a bipedal black nightmare bear animatronic with his face that has scratches and distorts all over it. His muzzle and jaw has white sharp teeth with blood stains in the corners, near his black gums and on the rest of the inside of his mouth. Okay, his eyes are, there's black eyelids and red irises. He's a giant, pure black bear that is just as dark as night and is where all dreams go to die. I don't know how else to say it. He also has a shiny hat. His body it's like kind of lighter than that. You know, he's like a lighter bit on his stomach, but other than that, he's wearing a shiny yellow bow tie and hat, and then, you know, he has teeth everywhere. And in Ultimate Custom Night, Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare are a tag team duo that are invisible to the cameras and can only be seen when you reach doorways. God. Okay, and even like then, only their eyes are visible. Yeah, his name is Nightmare. What else do I need to say? He's gonna give you nightmares. He's Nightmare. And at 7, Ennard. Ennard is the true main antagonist of FNAF's sister location, composed of the endoskeletons of the sister location animatronics, and he makes a return in Ultimate Custom Night as well, because of course he does. Ennard is one of the many Funtime animatronics, I guess, in a way, but he is also all of the Funtime animatronics. But what makes him terrifying is that he is the most human-like animatronic out of all of them, or at least proportions-wise, and that's just composed of like a wired endo body, and he also has a white mask with a red nose, eyebrows, and a freaking party hat. Dude, why? Why would you give yourself a party hat? There's no point to that. His body is just like wires of all the endoskeletons that he's made of, and he has a red button in the center because, you know, that's the self-destruct. No, it's not. I wish it was. But he also is covered in eyes because he's every Funtime animatronic. Ennard climbs around in the vent systems in Ultimate Custom Night, but unlike the other animatronics in the vents, he's actually difficult to keep track of, and he only appears briefly and when he's moving. He can't be seen in the vents opening, but he will give himself away by squeaking before he attacks. Yeah, you gotta listen for squeaking because you can't use visuals. That's not fun. I don't want to play these games with audio. It's not a good thing. If you want to stop him, you gotta close the vent door, but again, you won't know when he's there. Aside from being one of the creepiest animatronics design-wise though, this dude is just a whole load of worrying crawling through the vents, so yeah, he's getting on the list, absolutely, 100%. And at 6, Lolbit. Lolbit is essentially just a recolored Funtime Foxy, repainted to match like the FNAF World version of Lolbit, with the only exception being the absence of the hook hand from FNAF World, but I feel like that's a good thing. It has no visible eyelids or eyeballs, and instead it just has a glossy black eyes with just big white pupils, and it's covered in white with like orange highlights surrounding its eyes like some weird form of clown makeup. And the worst part about the character, is the noise that is associated with the damn thing. The worst part of a jump scare is the audio, okay? It's something that's meant to overload multiple senses in order to give you a shock. The visual of a jump scare without some sort of sudden loud audio isn't really going to do anything, but a loud sound on its own can still scare you. So combine that with her freaking clown fox appearance, like what the hell kind of combination is that? I don't know, okay? And the sound seems to be like a failed connection or something like that. Like it's something that you would hear from a computer crashing in a movie about the 80s, right? Or like a failed dial tone. You know what I mean, okay? Dude, with all of that combined, you have one of the most frustrating sensory nightmares that I have ever experienced. So yeah, Lolbit can show up on this list. And speaking of this list, if you like it, why not give it a like? So I know. How else am I supposed to know? Come on. Halfway through into number 5, Night Toy Bonnie. The Night Toy Animatronics are a collection of models from a now deleted Reddit account and are absolutely terrifying. I get that they aren't canon, but Jesus Christ, they're freaking horrific, okay? Night Toy Bonnie being the worst of the bunch. Sure, the others are messed up, but for some freaking reason, Bonnie just sets everyone on edge. I looked through the Reddit comments. It was scary. The original version stands on all fours with its legs like wider than its like hands, as if it's like some deranged gargoyle that just got home from a shopping spree in the Spencer backrooms. But I don't know, okay? I genuinely don't know how else to describe it, because the only thing that's toy about this is the color scheme. Other than that, it's furry, it's terrifying, and it seems like this is what the security database in the original Toy Animatronics was meant to prevent, if you catch my drift, okay? Like, this thing is gonna show up to the pizzeria and Chris Hansen's gonna pop out and ask it to sit down. It's so utterly terrifying that I had to include it on this list, despite it not really being a canon character. But if I have to suffer the fate of knowing about this thing, so do the rest of you, and you've all been searching it up a lot, so I was hoping it would help with SEO. In at 4, Ballora. I think Ballora is scary for one major reason, because I don't know Afton's intentions. Yeah, we've gotten to that part of the list, because after all, Afton's a man. He's a deranged one, but even the most deranged men have messed up needs. So maybe Ballora was supposed to be a little more than like a mother figure for his kids, okay? Or at least maybe it was like intended to be more. After all, we know that she does represent someone that William didn't let into his life, whether that be after his wife's exit from his life or after Elizabeth's death, but even then, we can start to get a general idea. But thanks to the fast facts found in FNAF AR, we know that the Funtime animatronics were among some of the first ever animatronics made by Afton. And if this was the case, Ballora would have been around before Elizabeth got caught by Baby, especially if she was made for circus babies. So yeah, after Afton's wife or baby mama or whatever it was leaves him or dies, he finds a woman who wants to help him, but he doesn't let her into his life. So instead, he makes a robot version that won't judge him, and he can probably do other things as well. Because let's face it, William wasn't in the most optimistic of mindsets. And if you think about it, there could be a reason that Ballora is so flexible and why she can't stand on her own. Obviously, so she can help work around the house. What were you thinking? God. And with my executive dysfunction, housework is the most terrifying thing of all. Hence why she's at number 4. Getting close to the end, at number 3, Burn Trap. Burn Trap is near the top of this list because while some people may consider this a waste, this to me was certainly a surprise. Okay, sure, we figured that Afton could come back in Security Breach, but we never thought that he would come back like this. We figured that there would be like more ceremony to his resurrection, that there was like actually a ritual that had to be performed, and that Gregory was the key or something. But Burn Trap was not what we expected, or at least I didn't expect a new form of Afton to appear in this game. Okay, I figured that we'd have Scrap Trap or like Glitch Trap form into one, and then he would finally have like a normal body bag if he took off the suit or something like that. But no, he's a corpse akin to what you would see in a Saw movie. During the fight against him, Burn Trap walks between 3 different rooms on the other side of like the underground pizzeria. Gregory has to watch for him and watch the rooms that he goes into and press each room's corresponding button when he attempts to take control of Freddy, and then you'll light a fire under his ass, literally, and damage him, stopping the corruption attempt. Failure to do so will have Glamrock Freddy taken over by Afton, which will have him basically instantly kill you. But I have had nightmares about this guy, but specifically because of all the wrenches that he threw into what we thought we knew about the series, but still, he's been in my nightmares, so yeah, he's on the list. Penultimately, in at number 2, Moon. The daycare attendant, otherwise known in-game as Sun or Moon, is a superstar daycare animatronic that appears in Security Breach as a recurring antagonist in its Moon form. As Moon, the daycare attendant is malevolent and aggressive. They constantly chase Gregory once the lights are turned off, and then every hour, not even every other hour, every hour on the hour he is on your ass. And then he attempts to punish him for going past his bedtime. Despite all this though, he still hates messes, and he has to clean them up whenever he sees it. It's like some weird form of like programming OCD. If he sees a mess, then he has to clean it up, but he does so in a creepier way. I can't express it, but honestly, this kind of attitude, like the demeanor that this animatronic gives, in general, just gives me a come see what's in my van, I got more fizzy fazz in here vibe, you know? Him and Night Toy Bonnie, they go to the same meetings, okay? I don't know, it makes me feel like a deep-seated anger in the pit of my stomach and just makes me want to beat his brains in until his wires are spilled on the floor, which is fine for me to say in this case because it's an animatronic, and a fictional animatronic at that, so stop trying to use this as evidence against me. And finally, in at number 1, Plush Trap. Yeah, Plush Trap, okay? The literal embodiment of how people think of children, especially when they don't want to have any. This is probably the most nightmare-inducing animatronic of all time, and I'm saying this on a list that includes one literally called Nightmare, okay? Plush Trap is a smaller plush version of Spring Bonnie, but has a design that's more similar to Scrap Trap, or Spring Trap, sorry. Albeit much more cartoonish and less damaged, considering how he's tiny. He also seems to try to be less menacing in appearance, but only in appearance, because his whole game mechanics are what make him terrifying. The minigame is like a Scooby-Doo chase scene on crack where the player flashes their flashlight at him, trying to stop him as he runs back and forth between doors in a dark hallway. Your goal is to stop him from moving on a painted X on the ground, but that X is literally right in front of you. The whole point of this game is to let the craziness get close to you, and that's what makes it so horrifying. I've done that before. I'm not doing it again. The rest of this game is just about avoiding things, but this specific section, you have to let it come to you. And while it's not really evil, the next video you should watch is also coming to you. In at 10, Withered Chica. Withered Chica is by far the most damaged of all the Junior's animatronics, which is pretty unfortunate because we all know how I feel about Chica. However, even though this is closer to the FNAF 2 look, it's closer to FNAF 2's Withered Chica with the wide jaw and missing hands. So it's not really the Chica we wanted, but also not the Chica we needed right now. It's just spooky how design will dictate everything about how terrifying or how alluring the characters are. Like, this realistic style really gives you a sense of what the hell we would be up against as Michael in the games, but also the original games have that same realistic style in a sense. I guess maybe this is for like when they lean more into the horror element come FNAF 3 and Fazbear's Fright, I guess. Because from like actual animatronic standards, the originals seem to be more accurate to what would be possible. The Junior's cast mostly seems like they would just be suits worn by people, kind of like Avengers Campus. And by the way, only 16% of people who watch these videos are actually subscribed. You might have watched multiple videos and not know that you aren't subscribed, okay? So check out and see if you are, and if you're not, click subscribe, okay? Hi, I see you, New York. Everyone from New York, click subscribe right now. In at 9, Withered Marionette. Holy sweet baby Jesus, what the actual hell is this monstrosity? In the final act of the game, Marionette's face gets shattered, which leaves cracks all over the faceplate of the animatronic, and honestly, it makes it my sleep paralysis demon. Like, I don't actually get sleep paralysis, but if I did have sleep paralysis, I promise you, this would be the demon that I see in my blind spot. This thing has bloodshot eyes, the cracks reveal a gross underside that is definitely not the fabric of the actual animatronic like we would assume, and honestly, it's just all kinds of wrong. Like, what the actual hell? Why do you think that this is a good idea? If this is supposed to be a Freddy's location with a name based off of Midnight Motorist, why are you putting in animatronics that can scare even my grown, albeit a little bit of a pansy, adult Why would kids think that these are fun to play with? I've seen kids that are literally scared of puddles and snails, but apparently they're fine with these freaks. And by the way, the snails were normal ones, not immortal ones, so there was no reason to be scared. And at 8, the mangle. The mangle from Juniors is nothing like the mangle from FNAF 2. Trust me. This time around, Mangle is giant, since the ghost haunting the restaurant ended up building Mangle as her final form, in a sense. Basically, just a Megazord, but animatronic animal. Using pieces of the different animatronic endoskeletons to create basically creation from Joy of Creation, but FNAF 2 themed. And then, during the final act, all of the animatronics, actually, I'll let you figure that one out for yourself, because straight up it's absolutely terrifying. And if you have seen someone play it, and you've seen the ending through them, or maybe even you've played it for yourself, you'll know why this is just a frickin' monster. However, since it's not in the game for all that long, we're gonna put it up higher on the list, because I got a lot of things to complain about, and only so long to do it. And at 7, Balloon Baby. This iteration of Balloon Boy isn't a boy at all. He's actually a baby, hence the name Balloon Baby. This time around though, his face is a lot more doll-like to kind of capture the eerie vibe that Balloon Boy has. And as always, he's holding balloons and has his iconic propeller hat. Can't believe that's iconic at this point. That's how the game extras menu describes him though. But do you want to know how I describe it? Wrong on so many levels. Balloon Boy doesn't have an eerie vibe, okay? He's just a freaking weirdo. The dude looks like he sniffs people's calves after they do their jog. Like, what the hell? He's creepy, but in a perv kind of way, not actually like scary or threatening. I don't get that thing. But even then, okay? Turning that into a baby makes it even worse. It's like if Chuck E. Cheese was actually built for Chucky the Killer Doll. Why? What the hell? Okay, whose baby looks like this? Because I'm sorry. Because this thing is ugly as hell. I'm just saying. I have yet to see an actually properly cute baby. And at 6, Chica the Chicken. As described by their extras menu, this iteration of Chica is not themed around food, but sleeping. She dons a nightgown, sleeping cap, and her cupcake has a binky. How adorable. I'm sorry, adorable? Look at this damn thing. Chica was my main girl, now you've desecrated her like a freaking monster. This is goddamn terrifying. And then you made her themed for sleeping, but still give her a cupcake? Why? What is she gonna, like what? Is she gonna be the daycare attendant when this world opens its own deranged form of the Pizzaplex? I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate Mazercise just as much as the next guy, but I don't want my girl to be sleeping when all the fun things we can do require being awake. And just look at her! How could you do this to my dummy thick mommy princess? What the hell, man? Juniors? Ain't no way there's gonna be a Junior Connor running around if that's what Chica looks like. Jesus! Halfway through it at number 5, Withered Freddy. While the Withered Freddy from the original series has a questionable backstory, like what caused them to be so withered if they're just not being used, in Juniors, the final act sees Freddy being torn to shreds, leaving him with only one eye and a massive scar down the right side of his face. So at least we know how he ended up withered, instead of just having to assume that over time, without being used at all, normal Withered Freddy just kind of wore down, which in reality, now that I'm thinking about it, doesn't really make sense. But this one explains it, so you know what, I like this version better. Story-wise, at least, because in reality, this thing looks absolutely terrifying and is probably going to make me cry, and then wake up 3 times throughout the night because I'm scared, instead of Glamrock Chica, who would wake me up for other reasons. Which is why I find it ironic that this version of Chica is themed for sleep. Anyway, back to Freddy. It's just off-putting, man, okay? He looks like he's smirking, he looks like he's giving you the me eyes, but instead it's like the F you without asking eyes, okay? You know what I mean. It's just overall creepy as hell, and I don't like it. And at 4, Withered Balloon Baby. If you thought normal Balloon Baby was bad because he wanted to sniff your crack after a 15-hour movie marathon, Withered Balloon Baby wants to do that, but also wants to fill your crack up with, well, you get the idea. This man wants the term your crack to be a little more than just your cheek separation. He's the kind of person that after that 15-hour movie marathon with no bathroom breaks is gonna start doing lines off the sweatiest parts of your body. Starting with the good old sweaty swamp, and then after that's been looted of all the good gear, the boys are dropping at Lint Lake. And then, well, you get the idea. It goes on after that. And then, once he's finally done, and then he's had the other half of his porcelain face destroyed by Satan's snow, you'll finally be able to use the bathroom. But he won't be letting you go alone, okay? That's the kind of creep that this thing is. And the reason I compared him to Chucky is because he's possessed by an adult serial killer in that movie, and I feel like this monstrosity would be as well. Plus, it makes it a little less creepy, in the eyes of the jury. Who's watching this video right now. Hi guys. Not guilty, by the way. Getting close to the end of number 3, the marionette. What in the absolute holy love of Satan and his benevolent disciples is going on with this version of the puppet, okay? Holy crap. It's one of the creepiest things that I think I've ever seen when it comes to the puppet, okay? Even beating out the goddamn Reaper puppet and even withered marionette from this game. And if you've been a fan of this channel for a while now, probably around 3 years in fact, you'll know how I feel about the Reaper puppet. This version of the puppet is supposed to be more of a ragdoll-like thing with a lengthy body and spindly appendages. She, yes, the game actually calls the puppet she, also has been given ears and a nose to add on to the creepy look. And you know what, I'm sorry to say this, but you shouldn't have added ears and a nose to this damn thing, because now all I can see is Curious George being absolutely coked out of his goddamn mind, being a little too curious about what my insides look like. You know what I'm saying? This is basically just like a monkey now, and honestly, that's terrifying. Okay, I'm expecting it to start throwing its shit at me and then stealing my wallet, or at least I tell my wife that it was a monkey that stole my wallet so she doesn't end up buying a gun and keeping it under the pillow. And you know what? If you got that reference, we can be best friends. But ultimately, in at number 2, Withered Foxy. Just like with the rest of the withered animatronics, Foxy was destroyed in the final act of the game. But in this chaos, he ended up losing his right ear. And the game makes it clear that his damage is actually the least noticeable since he was already damaged to begin with. And honestly, while the visual difference may not be that different, the way I relate to not changing much after being even more damaged is so much that it's scary. Yes, it's confirmed, I am Junior's Withered Foxy. My damage control shampoo is not helping, I'm still broken on the inside, but I was already broken before, so it's not as noticeable. And I wish that was a joke, but seriously, when I tell you that the past few years have been insane, I am not kidding. And that single line in the extras menu of his appearance is the least noticeable, as Foxy was withered to begin with, hit so close to home that it was terrifying, but also kind of uplifting in a way, at least if I look at it through the lens of I'm strong enough now that what would have broken someone else was hardly noticeable on me, and not the whole you're so damaged that people can't even tell when it gets worse kind of way. But you know what, that's why I have Blade and Sorcery to channel that frustration. Better than real people. Or at least that's what the lawyer said. And finally, in at number 1, the Ghost. The Ghost is the main antagonist of Junior's, and while I guess technically they're not an animatronic, they're the one responsible for everything that's happening. So in a way, they're all the animatronics. And plus, as I said, they end up becoming Mangle in the end, so I'm gonna count it. Basically, the Ghost is meant to be the vengeful spirit from Ultimate Custom Night. The Ghost seems to have a very strong connection to Paul Bear and wants to erase him during the final act of the game, and as to whether she is able to accomplish this goal or not is up to you to find out, motherfucker. Yeah, I've already talked about the final act and how it damaged the animatronics, but I'm not going to spoil literally the ending of the game for you. The main difference I see here, however, is that in Ultimate Custom Night, the one referred to as the one you should not have killed is meant to be Crying Child, but whether the vengeful spirit is the same as the one you should not have killed or not is a whole other question. Here, the Ghost is in it for themselves, for their own sense of justice, but if the one you should not have killed and the vengeful spirit are the same, then this couldn't be the same character, just the same concept. And yes, I said that because I know it's gonna make a decent amount of you mad, and I just find that funny. In a 10th, Jetpack Balloon Boy. Jetpack Balloon Boy is Balloon Boy's 3rd skin and the 3rd skin of the steampunk event within FNAF AR. The skin was released on July 8th of last year, I think, maybe, after being leaked by Lumix's community tab on YouTube over 12 hours early. I mean, it's still better than Funko leaking the design of the security breach animatronics though, am I right? Jetpack Balloon Boy's body shape looks identical to that of Balloon Boy, but now he wears a brown leather coat and has wool inside of it because, you know, it's steampunk. And he also has a large pilot's hat that's got multiple gears, bulbs, other devices, kind of like, you know, this normal steampunk thing. He wears a pair of goggles, because of course he does, and the right lens is like kind of glowing green, and the left lens is broken, and it actually reveals a robotic yellow eye, as if this wasn't concerning enough. His shoes and arms are also made made of bronze and metal, and they're covered with gears because they're really pushing the steampunk thing. I don't think they use that many gears. But now his sign also reads "Let's Fly" with big letters, being made out of scrap metal and also bolted to the sign because again, they gotta drive that point home. His balloon is decorated to look like a hot air balloon with gears, jewels, and curtains covering it. And finally, as his name suggests, he has a large jetpack on his back, which he will use to fly over your house and dive bomb it, because that's what steampunk does, right? Blow things up, I'm pretty sure. It sounds like it would be fun, although the whole "let's fly" thing is giving me Pennywise vibes, and I don't dig it. I don't like it. And at 9, the puppet. The puppet is an animatronic puppet, alright? I mean, it's in the name. And they're also a major antagonist, but also technically a good guy within the FNAF series. First appearing as the main antagonist of FNAF 2, but later on showing their heroic side. It possibly serves as the prize vendor of the newly refurbished Freddy Fazbear's from 1987, although it isn't also implied that it was originally from Fredbear's Family Diner as a security puppet, or at least that was the inspiration behind this version. After the pizzeria was only open for a few short weeks, it was then closed down, but the puppet, unlike the other toy animatronics who were scrapped due to possible malfunctions, was not scrapped, appearing later on in the new pizzeria from the first game, as evident by the dream cutscenes of multiple games, alright? There's a lot going on. And then also appearing as Lefty in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator. Lefty was also an animatronic that was intended to capture the puppet, as Charlotte Emily's father, Henry, knew that her soul was actually possessing the puppet. However, it's also widely believed that Charlotte is William's first victim, meaning that overall, they would have like the most significance to the story. Plus, have you seen like the way that it walks in FNAF 2 in VR before it jump scares you? That's creepy as hell, okay? No thank you. No. It's like a weird worm thing. I don't like it. And at 8, Circus Baby. Top 10 worst anime betrayals, but it's FNAF. In sister location, we thought we finally had the first nice animatronic. Like basically, a prototype Glamrock Freddy. Or at least, we thought so at first. Baby was giving us tips on how to survive. She really seemed like she wanted us to live. But then, what do we get for trusting her? Just like my ex, scooped and stuffed, just like a Thanksgiving turkey. This was probably one of the most brutal things to happen to a character in the entire series, and it's all because we trusted Baby, alright? She made us feel safe, she gave us confidence, she prevented us from getting killed, only to use our body as a skin suit and then get kicked out of Enter not even a game later. This is why I don't trust Glamrock Freddy. Okay, Baby is legit one of the reasons that I have trust issues, and that's saying something. Like, holy damn, okay? I could have sworn throughout the whole of Security Breach that we were gonna get betrayed, and then Glamrock Freddy was gonna do the same thing. Like, lead us down to Afton and then pull a psych. I've been working for this but he didn't. However, thanks to Baby, I'm still pretty sure that this man is doing a long con. And if you're liking this video and you want to see more, be sure you're smashing that like button. Smash it like I'd smash Glamrock Chica. And make sure that you're subscribed, because YouTube randomly unsubs people sometimes. I don't know, okay? The internet is weird. Moving on. And at 7, Glamrock Freddy. Yeah, I'm calling him out even more. Glamrock Freddy is one of the newer Glamrock animatronics created in Security Breach. He's the Glamrock version of Freddy Fazbear. I mean, I don't really know how else to say it. He's based off like the original Freddy, but with an early UK 1970s vibe, or 80s, I don't know which one had neon, I wasn't born. Similar to Toy Freddy though, he has a top hat, he's made of plastic, kind of like Kim Kardashian, and then he has a thin blue stripe above the brim of his hat. He has a microphone now that has a stand this time. Yeah, that's fancy. He's a bit boxier, he has a light blue stripe on his chest, and also at like the center of his jaw. I don't know, he has like a lightning bolt like he's a wannabe Flash. Glamrock Freddy within the game though is Gregory's protector, okay? Attempting to help him survive until 6 AM and escape, with the player being able to climb into his stomach, which is referred to as the birthday cake hole on the PlayStation blog, which is a whole other set of concerning questions. And then you can take control of him and hide and evade from other animatronics in certain sections, and you kind of have like a mech that doesn't really fight. However, I trust this man as far as I can throw him, because I firmly believe that we're gonna have another Circus Baby situation that will probably be revealed when the DLC comes out in 2023. Like seriously, there's no way that this many things could have worked out in our favor throughout this game accidentally. No way at all. There's something sus going on here, and I'm pretty sure that it's Freddy. And at 6, Jaku Chica. Jacko Chica is an antagonist exclusive to the Halloween Update DLC for Five Nights at Freddy's 4, replacing Nightmare Chica. She returns also as an antagonist on Ultimate Custom Night, but I mean, exclusive, I mean, in FNAF 4, they're exclusive, and then ignoring Ultimate Custom Night. Jacko Chica is a Halloween-themed version of Nightmare Chica. I mean, I feel like it's pretty evident. She's distorted, nightmarish version of Chica with several sharp teeth, wires coming out of the torn parts of her body. However, unlike her original counterpart, she doesn't have any eyes, and or like an endoskeleton head at all, really. Instead, they have a bright orange light that's coming from within their soul. I don't know. Their eye sockets and torso are like glowing bright orange to kind of fit with the Halloween theme. She also carries a jack-o'-lantern instead of a cupcake because, you know, Jacko, that's kind of how it works. And then also in Ultimate Custom Night, when the office heats up to 90 degrees, Jacko Chica will appear in both halls at the same time. And then once she is fully materialized, she will then jump scare you, ending the game. The only way to stop her is by closing the left and right doors at the same time to make her go away. But this won't work if the office reaches 100 degrees or more, alright? So yeah, we gotta deal with heat. You gotta deal with the heat. If you can't handle the heat, get out of the office kitchen thing. I don't know. I haven't played Ultimate Custom Night. How about doing number 5, Ennard? Ennard is the true main antagonist of FNAF Sister Location. He's composed of the endoskeletons of all the Sister Location animatronics, and then he also makes a return in Ultimate Custom Night because he's just a dick like that. Ennard is one of the many Funtime animatronics, and is like a human-like animatronic with a weird endoskeleton-looking body. He has a white mask with a red nose, red eyebrows, a green and yellow-colored party hat for some reason, because, you know, that makes it less creepy, despite you being a giant robot made of wires. And it also has like a red button and then multiple eyes covering the body. But you know, the top hat, it makes it okay. And it also climbs within the vent system in Ultimate Custom Night, but unlike the other animatronics in the vents, he is difficult to track, appearing only briefly here and there when moving. He can't be seen in the vent opening, but he gives himself away by making like a squeaking sound before he attacks, because you know, that makes it easier. Just close the vent door and he'll go away, okay? But like aside from being probably one of the creepiest animatronics design-wise, this dude is just a whole load of worry, alright? He's crawling through the vents. Man is getting on a list 100%, alright? He's... The FBI is watching him, I hope. God. Nightmare On is an antagonist exclusive, again, to the Halloween Update DLC for FNAF 4, although they do return in Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF VR. But you know what? We don't talk about that. They're exclusive to FNAF 4's Halloween DLC. Nightmare On is a human-like animatronic. I mean, it's the puppet, but a nightmare version of the puppet. And they have a white mask with black tears this time, black lipstick, for some reason, white dots for eyes, and a row of sharp teeth that is sharper than me. Alright, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, although in this suit, I do look pretty snazzy. Ah, puns. Their body is black and it's supposed to look kind of like a skeleton with like a large chest and ribs protruding, kind of like me when I'm not wearing a shirt. They have a slender body, like really weird thin legs, and you know what, they kind of just look like a tentacle monster that you would see in certain kinds of exotic cartoons. During the night though, in Ultimate Custom Night at least, Nightmare On will appear if the mouse cursor lingers over them, and then the player has to like avoid the area that they are in, and if you don't do it in time, you're gonna get jump scared and die. Because, you know, that's how Ultimate Custom Night works. So yeah, just don't actually add them to the game. Just don't play Ultimate Custom Night. The only way to win is not to play. Getting close to the end of number 3, Piranha Plush Trap. Piranha Plush Trap is Plush Trap's second skin in FNAF AR, and the third skin to be added throughout the Wicked Tides event. He released on June 7th after being delayed for 3 days for unknown reasons, but we actually ended up making a community post about this when he was coming out. And personally, this is like one of the scariest FNAF AR skins ever added. Piranha Plush Trap is hardly like the original Plush Trap. Now they're made of like a more organic flesh-like material, even having like realistic gums. His mouth is littered with long, thin, sharp teeth akin to that of a, I don't know, piranha, and his eyes are extremely small and glow an ocean blue, because you know, that's how all like beautiful people are described in books, right? Oh, their eyes are the color of the ocean, because you know, that's plush trap is beautiful. On the sides of his head, he has glowing orange gills. His feet also glow that same orange, and his hands have orange webbing in between them that kind of stretches as he moves, because you know, they're piranhas. That's kind of how it works. Although the webbing is in between the fingers doesn't glow, luckily. His ears are covered in barnacles. His mouth, stomach, and right leg are all covered in like string-like algae. His body is fully covered in spikes, and his torso is also split open, revealing his ribs. And this thing is actually horrifying, and I do hope that we see them in another game instead of just in special delivery, because this is terrifying. This would actually genuinely scare me. This is like the baby zombie of FNAF. But ultimately in at number 2, Nightmare. That's right, they're only at 2. Nightmare is the main antagonist of FNAF 4, alright? They return an Ultimate Custom Night. I don't think that Nightmare specifically is in FNAF VR though. Their face features, like, they have scratches and they're all distorted. It's basically just an inverted Nightmare Fredbear, alright? His jaw has all the white sharp teeth that you would normally expect with a Nightmare. Got blood stains, his like black gums, his black eyelids, white thin pupils, red irises, and just, I don't know, it's terrifying. I don't know why they thought that this would be okay. This is called Nightmare for a reason. His body contains like a bit like a lighter bit of gray on his stomach, I guess, and he has a shiny yellow bow tie because that makes everything better. Nightmare Fredbear and Nightmare are basically just a tag team, also in Ultimate Custom Night. They're invisible to the cameras and can only be seen when they reach the doorways. Then once their eyes are visible, you gotta close the doors to make them leave you alone. And finally, in at number 1, the daycare attendant. This mother hubber. The daycare attendant, otherwise known in-game as Sun or Moon, is a superstar daycare attendant animatronic, obviously, that appears in Security Breach and is a recurring antagonist in its Moon form. As Sun, the daycare attendant they're upbeat, they're energetic, they're kind of similar to Funtime Freddy in that sense. They enjoy doing activities with children, such as putting on puppet shows and drinking Fizzy Faz, you weirdo. And when Gregory knocks down, like, the things to distract him, he kind of has to pick them up and he's panicking about it. I don't know why. He's also very serious about keeping the lights on because if they're off, he transforms into Moon. And then as Moon, they're really malevolent and aggressive and they're really angry for some reason. They constantly chase Gregory once the lights turn off, and then they attempt to punish him for, quote, going past his bedtime and being a naughty, naughty boy. Yeah, even though Moon still has a distaste for messes, they gotta clean it up as well, which is actually at least a little bit good because you can torture him while he's torturing you. But honestly, this kind of attitude that this animatronic has in general kind of gives me a whole like come see what's in my van, I got more Fizzy Faz in there vibe, you know? And straight up, I don't like that. It makes me feel like a deep-seated anger in the pit of my stomach, and it makes me want to throw this man to the floor and beat him until his brain wires spill out, which is fine for me to say in this case because it's an animatronic that I'm referring to, although I'm sure the prosecution has ended the video before I can say that. But hopefully my lawyer has unpaused the video right now so the jury can have an oh okay moment like in all of the movies when they start to truly understand my innocence.